Well, hello there everyone, my name is Amy, this is The Opinionated Woman, and welcome to Crafty Reads, the series where I craft something, and we talk about the last 5 books that I've read. This is the official first one of 2024. Yes, there has been one that has gone up in January already, but that was like finishing off my books from 2023. So today is book 1 through 5, the first 5 books of the year so far. I'm so excited, I've had a really good reading year so far. Oh, I got that little hiccups. I'm having to leave my door open to film this because otherwise I'll melt into a puddle on this couch. So if you can hear some noise, I'm very sorry. It is 34 degrees. So I'm not about to close this door because this filming will not happen. I will expire. So the project that I'll be working on, I've just started. I'm working on a beanie for my brother. I've never made a beanie before because I'm not a hat person. This is a pattern from Cheyenne Barton. I'll put it down below. I love her. And they made a really good pattern for a camel stitch beanie, which is a stitch I've never done before, so it's nice learning something new. But yeah, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to talk about books, so let's get into it. I decided to start off the year with Breathing Lessons by Anne Tyler. Some years I start off with a literary fiction and it just sets the vibe, and this is exactly what it did. So this book I got for £5 at a thrift store, if you've watched that vlog. I was so happy with that and it was so damn entertaining, and it was like not what I was expecting at all, because sometimes when you see older literary fictions you think, okay, they're going to be quite serious, and this wasn't really. So we're following our main character Maggie and her husband Ira. One of Maggie's friends, her husband has just died, so Ira and Maggie are having to drive a state over to go to the funeral. So most of the book takes place on this road trip, like the interactions that they have as a couple. Like some looks back into their history, especially with their kind of bum of a son who she just doesn't see that way at all, and his estranged ex-wife Fiona and his child, and as we're going throughout the story and interacting with different people and hearing these memories from the past, we come to get this idea of Maggie, and she is such a freaking weirdo lady. Like she likes to get involved. She can never leave well enough alone, and she jumps to conclusions like no other. So at the beginning of the story, she's also super ditzy. So at the beginning of the story, she's leaving with her car from the mechanic because she's just got a repair done, and she thinks that she hears her son's estranged wife on the radio, because it's a woman and her name's Fiona. And in her sudden surprise that she gets, she hits a Coke truck, and instead of stopping as you do when you have a car accident, she's like, no, but we have to get to the funeral. So she just drove away. So yeah, we see Ira getting kind of irate about her at some point, but you also see like how much he loves her at the same time. So yeah, this book has not got like crazy amounts of plot. It's just a lot to do with these family interactions and how Maggie sort of inserts herself into these family interactions in just like the most like bull in a china shop way. Like at one point, after Fiona has left Jesse, her son, she gets a phone call, and it's just breathing on the line, and she says Fiona, and then the person hangs up. So in her head, that means that Fiona called. So instead of keeping that to herself, she goes to her son and says, Fiona called, she says she misses you. Like, that conclusion jumping is like astronomical, and she does that throughout the whole book, and it's really funny. So yeah, I recommend this. It won the Pulitzer Prize, and it's got such a goofy, weird main character, and like I liked it a lot. A book I did not like a lot was The Damn Family Game by Katherena Steadman. So I'm really glad I finished Breathing Lessons before I finished The Family Game, which was my audiobook that I was reading at the end of 2023, because it was bad. So Katherena Steadman, I've read one of hers before, The Disappearing Act, and it was only okay. So I was like, okay, let me give her another go. And The Family Game was her latest release. Go in there, Stitch. So this book basically follows Jack, who is an author, and she's just gotten engaged to her partner Edward. And funny enough, like, they've gotten to the point of getting engaged, but she's never met his family before. So this is like over the like holiday period. And she starts getting involved with this family, and ominous things start happening. And to be honest, the beginning part of the story was really boring. Like, there was this incriminating tape that her fiance's husband has given to her, outlining all these crimes, and I have zero idea as to what the motive for that would be, and it didn't make much sense. And this whole family is known for these family games that they play, but they're actually just like these really strange manipulations, like trying to gain power over one another. And like, I just found the suspension of disbelief being like almost impossible in this book at that stage, because it was really, really boring, and then super over the top and dramatic in a way that I didn't find entertaining by the end. So yeah, I don't think Catherine Steadman's writing is for me. Then I read The Break by Catherine Vermette, hardcover. We never get hardcovers in South Africa, but I found this at Bargain Books. This book is set in a Métis community in Canada. And this is why I like to read diversely, because I would have had no idea who the Métis people were. I don't know much about the Indigenous people of Canada. So this was a really interesting book to read in that case. So in this book, we're following like a multitude of different characters. So the first one, right in the beginning, is Stella, and she sees a crime happening outside of her house, but she's got a baby and another young child with her, and she's by herself in the house, so she's very scared to go out there. So she just calls the police and doesn't really go and do anything about the crime. And then we sort of leave her and get introduced to a bunch of other characters. They're all from the same area. Most of them are Métis. I think all of them are Métis. Yes, all of them are Métis, which is a mixed race people, basically, as far as I can tell. It's like half First Nations, half white, as far as I can tell, or half something else, I don't know. But we get introduced to all these different characters, and we're not 100% sure how they link together. I mean, some of them are family members, and it's really helpful. They have a family tree in the front. That's very, very helpful, because there are a lot of characters in here. Slowly, the author like stirs all these narratives together until they become intertwined, and we start to realize where all these people fit in this narrative and how it all revolves around this crime that happened right in the beginning of the book. We even get the perspective from like a bad guy without even realizing that right in the beginning, you know. And I think like Katherena Vermette just like writes this so artfully, and it's really heartbreaking and like painful, but at the same time it's like fascinating, and you can't stop reading. Like, it's just beautifully done, and I'm really glad that there's a companion novel that goes with this, because I'm getting my hands on that, you best believe. Then I picked up a historical fiction, and that's The Confessions of Frannie Langton by Sara Collins. This is set in 1826, and this book has been following me around. I've had it on my TBR for ages, and I kept on seeing it in different bookstores, and I was like, you know what, you need to get hold of this book now. And I completely didn't even realize it was gay until later on, though the gay is very subtle in this one. Let me see how many stitches I've got here, because I'm doing a new type of pattern. So at the beginning of the story, we're following Frannie Langton, who has been arrested for murdering her employers, the man of the house and his wife. And you know what? I can't actually even remember the Mrs. Benham's name. I was trying to look for it, but I'm not going to spend all of this time when I'm trying to film looking for this character's name. But that I think is indicative of something with this book, because part of the story of this is that she's been in a romantic relation, that she found herself in a romantic relationship with the woman that she was working under. But we don't know that much about the woman herself, and she always calls her madam, like, because she's French. But it's very much like the focus is definitely on Frannie and her experiences and her emotions to do with this woman. It's not to do with the woman herself. I think it's to do with the fact that in the presence of this woman, she starts to feel more like a person and less like a commodity, which is what she's been feeling, because she's been brought from the West Indies, where she was enslaved, and given to a man as a servant, even though they claim that Britain is free at this point. So she is black, so people immediately, distrust her and things like that. So back in those days, I mean, even that kind of racism happens now, but very much so in 1826. The thing that I found interesting is that she speaks more romantically about doing laudanum with the madam of the house than about having intimate. We don't get any look into their tenderness or anything like that. We get like notes every now and again, but we don't really get too much about the emotional connection between these two. We get more of romantic ways of talking about the drug that she started to do with her mistress. And I just found I love the setup of knowing the crime beforehand and then being told from the beginning leading up to like how we got into that situation. And I thought it was really well done. And there's so much to this story. Like, the more that I thought about this book after I read it, the more depth I realized that it had. There's a lot about eugenics in here, because the two men that she was involved with, like as a servant, had her help them with work to do with eugenics, and it's like really dark and sinister. But it was really well written, and like I was on the edge of my seat. Like, this is exactly the type of historical fiction that I absolutely love. And lastly, I read The Theory of Flight by Siphiwe, Gloria, and Ndlovu. I wanted to pick this up forever, and I found it at a thrift, and it's got a little name tag on it, which I think is cute as hell. I love when I find stuff like that on secondhand books. So this book is another one very similar to The Break, except this is following a bunch of black characters that are from, they don't name the country. I think it's supposed to be Zimbabwe, but they don't really set it specifically. It's like in an unnamed Southern African country, basically. And we're following a whole host of different characters. There's a character list in this one as well, that are all linked to this one woman, Jeannie Imogen Inyoni. So all of these people that are involved lived around this place called the Beaufort Farm and Estate. And it's changed hands multiple different times, but that is where Jeannie had her childhood. And that's where everything started, until this really horrible like massacre happened during the Independence War. And Jeannie manages to escape and gets adopted by another family, and then goes to have a whole nother life in the city. And we follow her along that trail and meeting all these different people while we have this like organization looming across the whole thing. It was very interesting. There were so many different characters that all linked through in a beautiful way. Yet again, like in The Break, Siphiwe, Gloria, and Ndlovu really like melds these characters into each other really well until you start making all these connections. It's very nice, very nicely done. And it's also got a slight hint of magical realism in it, and that they leave sort of like open-ended, which I absolutely loved. I want so bad to read a full-on magical realism, like South African magical realism. I mean, I say South African, I think this writer is from Bulawayo. Yes, he's from Bulawayo. so like an African magical realism set in any African country, actually. I don't even care. If it's set in South Africa, that would be freaking sick. But any African magical realism that's not like too magic-y, like proper magical realism, I would absolutely love to read something like that. So if you guys have any recommendations, please drop them down below. So with that, this is as far as I've gotten with this beanie. So it's crocheted, but it's like knit look, and it tapers at the top, so you don't have like a bunch of fabric left at the top. So I'm really excited for how this is going. I'm really proud of myself learning something new. But I hope you did enjoy that. If you've read any of those books, please put your comments down below. I love getting comments from people who are not YouTube Shorts commenters. My YouTube Shorts comments are a bloodbath. Every morning after I post a short, I have to go in and delete hate comments. My word, like that, I wish it would be shown on other, like different, completely different people's feed pages. But anyway, or shorts feeds, whatever they're called. So if you want to drop a nice comment or a comment about a book, I will gladly read them down below. My social media is down below, my Instagram and my TikTok, along with my Kofi link, which is like a little one-time tip jar if you ever want to support my channel. But other than that, like, comment, subscribe, all of that fun stuff, and I'll take you next time.